Hey my good friends, Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. Today we're looking at the all-new 2019 Toyota RAV4. This is the adventure trim grade, which means adventure. So I'm out here in the desert. It's 112 degrees today, just for you. We're going to take it for a drive both on and off the road. I'm going to show it to you inside and out. I'm going to tell you what I really think. All right, before we get out on the test drive, let's have a quick look at this thing. This is completely new for 2019 and of course now into 2020 model year. It's an all new platform chassis architecture from the ground up, and that really delivers in a lot of ways, which we'll get into as we get into the test drive. But the styling for me is really where it's at on this thing. When I first did my introductory video on this last year, I was just absolutely amazed at how much more masculine this is than previous RAV4s, which we're really for mothers, soccer moms. That's not really a good thing to say. This is something a man could buy now, I think. This is something that, you know, if you just couldn't quite get into a 4Runner, this wouldn't be like the complete end of the world as far as, you know, showing up in front of your friends at the gym. And I know that most people don't really look at that when they're buying cars, but there are a lot of people that do. Seriously though, this is a vehicle that I like the styling on this a lot more. It really sort of pulls a lot more of the DNA from the truck and the off-road side of the Toyota showroom. And that's really evident right up front in this more aggressive grille. Granted, on the adventure grade, we've got a more truck-like off-roady style, especially with the skid plate visual element down there. And that's not a real skid plate, that is a visual element. Looks very cool though. And this color, this is lunar gray with the two-tone roof option. I love this. I absolutely love this color. And this roof, about a $500 give or take some change option. I think it's worth it. It only comes with a few colors. 19-inch wheels on the adventure grade. Now, given this is really sort of an off-road flavor, I would have maybe gone with a smaller wheel and a taller tire. We'll get to that in the drive. As you can see, this is a little bit dusty and dirty. This is the first RAV4 I've ever chosen to shoot dirty because I've been out here in the desert playing with it out in the open, and well, it's the first RAV4 I think actually looks good with a little bit of dirt on it. I wish we had some rain here recently. I'd go push it through the mud and splash it and put some video out there with it going through the mud. The headlights on this one are an upgraded headlight because we are in the top trim grade. LED headlights. They have a really nice look to them when they're on and off. The daytime running light element is actually quite attractive. Fog lights down there in the lower fascia as well. Coming around to the back of the RAV4, this is an area of the styling that I still am not quite on board with. This has a very broad-shouldered look, and that's a good thing, particularly up front and down the side. But at the back, this still has this sort of a form that looks like a baby's diaper that's a little bit too full. But this two-tone roof does help fix that. I'm glad that the lower fascia does have genuine exhaust tips down there, not like Volkswagen and some other brands who are going with these fake little falsy things. At least Toyota stuck with the real deal, which really fits for the character of this vehicle. And that low bumper you'll see has a nice low lift in for this hatch, and we'll get to that when we look at the interior. LED taillights, and I like the way that roof really ties into the roof spoiler. It's just a nice integrated look that has the third brake light up there. I think they've done a good job with this. As I've said, this is the first RAV4 I've looked at this and thought, you know, a guy could buy this. So if you've never seen me gush in a video, if you've never watched my other videos where I've actually gone bonkers over something, you're about to see that, because this interior on this thing is amazing. It's amazing. Honestly, folks, this is the nicest interior I have sat in this year. And I've driven Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, Audi, a lot of great cars that have a lot of great interiors, but this is it at any price. And the reason why is because it's just got really high quality materials. It's got smart functional design. The fit and finish is impeccable. Impeccable. I cannot find a single flaw in how well this thing's put together. And if you watch my videos, you know I can go bonkers over a badly done interior. You've seen it before. It happens a lot. But getting past that a little bit, my excitement, let's talk about why this is good. The first thing is, in the adventure grade here, yes, we have the highest quality trim, the nicest colors. I absolutely love the colors of this interior. It's bright, it's airy, it's modern, And with the adventure grade, we've got the orange accents, which lends sort of a toolbox camping sports gear sort of theme. It's got the orange stitching across the dash, and down you can see the tubs where you can put storage, little nooks. They've got orange trays in there. There are orange accents here on the center console. They've really just sunk their toes in it, even in the seats. They've got nice orange striping and piping in these seats. And let's talk about these chairs. These are top of the line power chairs. Again, I just think they look absolutely gorgeous. They're extremely comfortable, good side bolstering. I've got a cold weather package on this one that also gives me heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel. As I sit here and look forward, the instrument cluster in this, the top of the line for this car, it's got a dial on either side, a full size color screen in the center that you can customize in any number of ways. And that changes up a little bit too when you vary the modes when you're out there driving, particularly when you get into the all-wheel drive modes. You get some information on there that really is dialed into that. The center stack, very simple, very modern, but very functional. I've got the screen up here for the infotainment system. Nice big dials. I need to point out these dials. Look at this rubberized dial. This is the coolest thing. Not only does it look cool, but it's got a nice high quality tactile feel in your hand. The quality of the switchgear, fantastic. Those knobs up here also with that rubberized coating. And they've done a lot of that with this interior, which lends itself to that feel of quality. Down in the center, I've got a nice big place for my phone down there here with a wireless charger. And I've got plugs to plug in the phone, USB auxiliary. I've got a 12-volt port there. Inside, not only is there a lot of storage, but there are two more 2.1 amp USB charging ports in the center. Cup holders where you'd expect to find them. In this center area, I've got the gear lever as well as a nice drive mode selector with all of the controls for the all-wheel drive as well as the drive modes. Electric parking brake. That sort of frees up a lot of space here. Some people don't like them. As they've gotten better, I tend to like that quite a bit. Optional on this is the top of the line JBL infotainment system with native navigation. It's a beautiful system to use. I found it to work quite well in other Toyotas that I've tested recently. Also, the sound is good. JBL's in the past hasn't always been that good, but I find that it is pretty good here, even with Sirius XM. And the visibility on the screen is very good. The graphics are crisp. Sometimes when you look at it from the side or when you're in the right sunlight, the glare is a bit of a problem, but that can be said for literally any car that's on the market out there right now. Your rear seat passengers are going to be just as impressed as you are up front, starting with these air conditioning vents right there. I love that, especially when it's 100 and some odd degrees like it is today. But there's a lot of functionality also. Another set of 2.1 amp USB charging ports down there. But that's just the sideshow. The big news is how much space there is back here. I've got plenty of room back here. These seats are set for my height, about 5'8" or 5'9", depending on the shoes I'm wearing. And I've got plenty of room back here, as you can see. Plenty of headroom. I mean, I've got about 6 inches above my head here. One of the reasons is because I've got a little bit of a low seating position. At least to me, it feels like I'm sitting down a little bit on the low side. My knees are kind of perched up, something I normally complain about. It's fine if you're going across town, but if you're on a long road trip, adults might find that to be a bit troublesome. The good news is I've got plenty of space. Now, this seat does have a 60-40 split, starting with a fold-down armrest, but as I fold down these seats in the 60-40 split, you can see there's plenty of room in a big cargo space with a nearly flat load floor. Under that load floor, yes, is a spare tire. I expect that in an SUV, not a tire inflator kit. One option I want to point out is these rubber mats you can see on the floor. Up front, here in the second row, and in that rear cargo area are some very nice deep dish rubber floor mats. I've been able to get in and out of this vehicle out in the desert with thorns stuck to my boots and not worry about tracking any of that stuff in here, because I can pull the mat out and hose the thing off and the car's clean again. And in the back, I've been able to throw all kinds of stuff without worrying about scuffing up carpet and that kind of thing. Overall, I'm pretty impressed with this interior. Not only is it pressing all of my visual, artistic, creative buttons in terms of how it looks, how it feels, but it's very versatile, and the quality of the materials is just fantastic. All right, my friends, to the drive. So as I mentioned in the beginning, this is on an all-new chassis architecture known as TNGA, Toyota New Global Architecture. Fancy, huh? Well, what that means is this is an all-new chassis, an all-new RAV4 from the ground up, What I've got under the hood here is a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine, 184 pound-feet of torque, 203 horsepower, and this year an all-new 8-speed automatic transmission. That's a big deal because in this class, a lot of the vehicles that you're going to look at have a CVT, a continuously variable transmission. So this still has what you consider a traditional shifting feel with an automatic transmission, 8 gears. So you still have a lot of flexibility when it comes to getting acceleration and power when you want it driving around town. So my big question always is, how does it go? Well, let's bring the vehicle to a complete stop. Now I'm going to put it in sport mode here just for the sake of getting the transmission to be its best. Here we go. And 60. Okay, so even though 203 horsepower sounds like a lot, it doesn't necessarily feel like that. And part of that's because of the fact this is a big, heavy SUV. This is the largest RAV4 that they've ever made. It's heavy, it's got all-wheel drive, it's got a lot of stuff going on. So even though 203 horsepower sounds like a lot, it still takes a little bit of working to move this thing around. But this transmission does work very well, whether you are on sport mode, normal, eco, or whatever. I've been impressed with it this week. The one area that it has sort of surprised me is fuel economy. This is rated at 25 city, 33 highway, and 28 MPG combined. My actual mileage this week was 23. That's city and highway, so kind of thirsty. And in fairness to both the acceleration we just saw as well as the EPA, fuel economy versus reality, is the fact that air conditioning is on. It's 112 degrees today, so that does play into the fuel economy as well as the performance because it's hot here in Arizona. The AC's never been off. How does it drive? Well, this new chassis, far and above the last one. It's got a nice, smooth, quiet ride out here on the pavement. As you can tell, very little wind noise. It feels very solid. And what I've said about other vehicles on this new chassis is that it feels alive. It rewards you for asking it to go. You know, Toyotas in the past were sort of dead to the world. This has a nice, lively, you know, kind of a spring in its step, so to speak. But what I really want to find out is how this does off the road, since it is sort of an adventure grade SUV. All right, so starting off our little drive here, we're just going to go through my little sand dunes area. There's a few places here where we can test key things when it comes to the traction and the ground clearance to some degree. Now this does have 8.6 inches ground clearance, which is pretty good. Now this is a little hill. It tends to challenge the traction because it gets some weight off the wheels. Yeah. Now I've got this on normal mode. I do not have this on rock crawler sand mode. So if I push this over to rock mode, let's see what happens here. And what that does is it just changes the algorithm of the traction control and the all-wheel drive control so that it allows to get a little bit of torque vectoring and arrest the spinning of a wheel and pushing power around. This is not a true locking system, but this enables the computer to get in there utilizing the traction control and some of the other things to really get this thing out of some spots. Now I'm going to put this back in normal. We're going to go through our mogul test here. Now this is something I haven't done in a while, but I wanted to do this because this RAV4 with the Adventure and the XLE have the high-end all-wheel drive system that's now available on this. So this is a place that gets one wheel up off the ground and one rear wheel off the ground or without very much traction on opposite sides of the car. So you get a bit of a teeter-tottering effect, which is very challenging to most all-wheel drive systems, even in some of the best vehicles. So we're going to pull on up here and get this thing stuck, so to speak, and see how it performs. Okay, now I got one wheel up and the rear wheel in the back isn't really able to dig in, and I'm mashing the pedal to the floor right now. Traction control is just not letting anything happen. So I'm going to reach over here and spin this over to rock and dirt, which is going to change the way it addresses spinning wheels. And look at that. Simple as pie. So here we are out on the desert trail. This is a washboard road. sort of a little bit of a manicured but mostly unimproved dirt road. This rough ribbed surface is a great way to see how well put together this thing is, how well tuned the suspension is, and how well it isolates you from the harshness of not only that vibrating ribbed washboard surface, but ruts and bumps and some of the washes we're going to cross here. Allows me to get some speed on and really see how this thing performs as the vehicle it tells us it is, right? This is for adventure. It's for going out in the trail and camping and getting away from the big city and all of the things that bug you there. Well, what I'm finding out is that this actually is pretty well composed. Going through the wash here, there's not a lot of harshness going on here. Now I am getting a little bit of jitter here and there in some of the things like the mirrors, and I'm seeing some visual evidence of the fact that I'm going over a rough road, but the fact is I'm going over a rough road, you know? But what's not happening is I'm not getting any rattling in the suspension or any sense that this chassis is not as robust as it needs to be. In fact, it's pretty quiet in here given what I'm doing. The other thing is I go around some of these curves, the traction and stability control kicks in very quickly when this thing wants to slide out just a little bit. It arrests it almost imperceptibly. I can feel it because I'm looking for it, but as I sort of throw it into a curve here, yeah, it catches it right away. There is a little bit of harshness, and that goes to the fact that we have 19-inch wheels with low-profile tires. As I said in the beginning, if this were a true off-road variant, it ought to have smaller wheels and taller tires. That helps absorb some of the harshness of ruts and bumps when you're out in the rough. But the good thing about this is even though it doesn't have the sort of capability that you look for in like a Jeep Trailhawk trim grade on their Compass or in the Cherokee, this does have a confidence level out here that's much better than what I've expected from a RAV4 in the past. So we've gone up a notch or two in terms of its capability and confidence. I wouldn't say it's class leading, but I wouldn't be doing this with the old RAV4 quite as comfortably as I am right now. All right, my friends, let's wrap it up. It is freaking hot out here in the desert today, and I've had fun, but I want to go home and get something cold to drink. So let's look at what I thought here. First of all, the price, $40,000 and some change. I might have mentioned that already. That's pretty spendy for a RAV4. Bear in mind, however, this is a fully loaded top trim grade. This is about as much as you can spend on a RAV4, and it's about the most I've ever seen a RAV4 cost. But bear in mind, it does start out down at $25,000. Okay, not all of them cost this much, but we're just in that range where RAV4s become a really big staple in the Toyota lineup. It's no longer that cheap little toy over there in the corner. And I think even at $40,000, you've got a lot of value here. But let's get to my three key takeaways. The first one is styling and character. Look at this thing. This is no longer something that's going to blend in at the Costco or Walmart parking lot. This is something that really jumps out at you, gets attention. It got attention everywhere I went this weekend, especially with these nice colors and trim grades that they've offered. It's got a lot of character and something that you can be proud of and look back at when you walk away from in a parking lot. You go, yeah, that's mine. I like it. Now the interior, also very well done. High quality materials, a good basic design. Here in the Adventure trim grade, it's got a lot of pizzazz, but even when you go all the way down into the lower trim grades, there's good materials. I love the rubbery grips on all of the controls. It's just a fun place to be that really just sort of, well, it speaks to adventure, and it's just a good design with good quality materials. Toyota's been on that track lately, and I think the brand's going to be better for it. The third thing is competitiveness. This is a vehicle that really has risen above now, in my opinion, a lot of its competitors. Certainly the new Ford Escape, Honda, Chevrolet, Kia, Hyundai. This is a vehicle that now really has sort of risen to the top in terms of what you should be looking at when you go out shopping in this category. And if you're looking for a sort of off-roady, adventurous sort of theme, Subaru Crosstrek, the Compass, the Cherokee from Jeep, those are vehicles that this now is really on par with, I think, when it comes to what you can go do out here in the desert with. Now, it might not be a Trailhawk like in the Jeep lines. Those are really robust off-roaders, but we're getting up there in terms of the overall confidence level that this thing brings you. So I really think they've done a good job in elevating the game here. And that's really the key takeaway for the entire thing, is they've elevated the game. Good job, Toyota. Now, if you want to see my latest test drive, click right there on the big square. If you want to see more of them, click down there and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and we'll keep you notified of everything we do. Stay tuned.